Hello everybody, we are back again today and we're talking about two guys that didn't make the postseason, but to be fair, they are guys that we do need to talk about whether or not they make the playoffs. Now, before we start with the video, please make sure to subscribe to my channel if you're new to me, new to hockey, whatever the case may be. I'd love to have you here along the way as I try to do this as a career. So if you want to subscribe, make sure to do so. If not, no big deal. Now, let's get on into the video talking about, is this the end of an era as Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin do not make the playoffs this year? So, Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, two all-time great players, and for them the postseason has been a very common theme. They both have not missed the postseason together since their rookie season back in the 2005-06 campaign, and that's been the only time, of course, in their long and storied careers where they both weren't featured, or at least one of them featured in the postseason. Between the two, they have seen playoff hockey 30 times, and on top of that, the pair have combined for an absolutely absurd amount of awards, accolades, personal and team-wise. You're looking at Washington too. They have won, I believe, 3 President's Trophies in the OV era, so that's good for them. But all of that came crashing down for both squads as the back end of the season was not favorable, and both teams, of course, missed the playoffs. For Pittsburgh, it snapped a 16-season drought, or I guess streak you should say, and they had made the playoffs every year since the 2005-06 season when that was over. Starting in 2006-07, the campaign, they ended up going to the playoffs and just kept going over and over and over again. And if a kid was born at that point, they would be getting ready to get their license, which blows my mind. As for the Washington Capitals, it ended an 8-year streak for them where they were a team that was on the inside looking out, where they were able to focus on making the playoffs. And the one year that they didn't make it was just one season. So that year that would have been 9 seasons ago, it was just 1 year. So before that, they'd make the playoffs pretty good amount of times as well. So it wasn't like they were consistently missing the postseason. And this is, in fact, the first season since the 2013-14 campaign that doesn't feature the Caps in the playoffs. So does this spell the end of an era surrounding these key figures in the league? And what could all of this mean? In all honesty, I can't say exactly that this is an end of an era, but I do think we will see some storylines that will be featured, whether that be with the media, with fans, whatever the case may be going forward, especially with these two and how great they are. So for Sid, I don't think it's the end-all be-all if the Penguins aren't consistently good. If they suddenly start to miss the playoffs, while that is frustrating considering the fact they have been so good, you know that Sid's just had an amazing career. Love him or hate him, whether you love him and you're of course a Pittsburgh fan, or a guy that calls him Queen Crosby. I know a lot of people said that. He has his name in the record books for obvious reasons and found a lot of postseason success with 4 trips to the Stanley Cup final, winning 3 of those, 09 and then 2016 and 2017. And is just a guy that you know is going to go to the Hall of Fame. And for me, I look at this and understand for Crosby, he probably wants the, chase for more championships, but at the same time, what guys are as fortunate as he is to be able to, come back from injuries like he's been able to do. Of course, he worked hard to do so, but also a guy that has had so much team success where he's won 3 championships and then individual success. My argument for Crosby is I don't think he's going to look at a trade or for a trade, anything like that. I think he is dedicated, or at least I would imagine him being dedicated to sticking it out with the Penguins to close out his career. I know for him, he probably understands how important it is for the fans. And again, I just don't see a guy that has done so much with one club and has already had a Hall of Fame career need to go on for another place. So for them, I think that's safe. As for Ovi, I think this could be a very big deal, much, much bigger than Crosby. Ovechkin's is by no means a guy that's achieved nothing in his time in the NHL. He has achieved so many things, countless records. I mean, he's second all-time for goals, chasing Wayne Gretzky's record, but he doesn't have 3 cups like Sidney Crosby does. And I think for Ovi, his legacy matching up to Crosby's is much more important to him than some people would expect, because they are 2 guys that debuted. This was, the group. These 2 were the face of the league, the up-and-coming, the pull us out of the dumps when we had a strike and missed a whole season. These 2 were those guys. And I just think for these 2 with their legacies and the battles that they've had in the playoffs, for Ovechkin, the Penguins have been able to come out on top more often than not, and he sees what Crosby's been able to do with the Pens in the Steel City, and would like that for himself. I don't exactly know if the Great Eight would ask for a trade, considering he did win a championship in the 2018 season with Washington. So the whole no cup thing is done and over with. By the way, it made me so happy for the Capitals when they were able to do that. But I do think he will consider it if the team is doing poorly, for the reason of, does he want to be on a bad team? He's already said he doesn't want to be on a bad team. He wants to be on a team that is consistently spending money, and then he wants to be on a team that is consistently in the hunt for the postseason, but also for more championships. And I really don't see the Capitals being in a spot where they can go to the playoffs next season, unless it's as a wild card spot, because New Jersey looks like the team of the Metro for the future. Carolina should still be good. The Rangers have a lot of talent. And then there are some other teams that you look at out there that probably will be better than Washington, at least on paper. So I don't think Washington's going to be that playoff team next year. But also you look at this and you wonder what kind of talent's going to be running for Ovechkin, because he's chasing the goal record. He wants to pass Wayne Gretzky, and while we will say, oh, it seems like a given, maybe it's not. And so for him, he wants to make sure he's in that spot to pass the great one and to be number one all time for goals. However, I will say this in terms of a trade. I really don't see him wanting a trade. He has achieved so much, again, like Crosby, but in Washington, has the key to the city, signed that like 15-year contract, has won a championship, has won so many individual accolades, has won team accomplishments, and I think he'll be frustrated, but I also think he'll say maybe in the closed office, hey, as long as we keep it to where I just get to eat up a bunch of power play time and get to go out there and just, keep shooting from my office, and then I have good line mates for myself. Just give us a good top six and, give us some offensive players for the blue line to help me out and just to have guys that can set me up, all that stuff. I think he'd be more inclined to say, I don't want to trade, but I guess we'll see. Having said all this, could we be headed towards an all-time in the league, considering that these two have been locks in a playoff for a while now? I do think so, especially because, like I said, Washington probably is not a lock to me, in my opinion, going forward. They are old. They've been regressing, and Pittsburgh is one of those teams as well. They had their core, and their core didn't miss a lot of time this year, and they still missed the playoffs, which was frustrating for them, and you wonder where they're kind of at as an organization. They made a lot of changes too, but I also think these two should still have success. But what do you think? Do you think that this is the part of the beginning of an end for an era? Do you think the era is already over with these two, and kind of where do you think their careers are going to take them? Will either of them ask for a trade? I'd love to hear all your thoughts down below in the comments for this video, and also please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe, have a great night, and you go with hockey, all right? Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.